The Old Man's Irish Pub is open. Welcome. Welcome back to those of you who's been here before. I'm Rich. I'm the old man in the Old Man's Irish Pub. I'm going to call this my first episode because this is the first one where we're really going to start talking about whiskey and different things. The first two are more about me. So now let's get into the whiskey. What better place to start talking about whiskey than where whiskey started? Whiskey, or the first reference to whiskey, or what led to whiskey, is what you see here, Aqua Vitae. It was documented in 1934 in Ireland. And the interesting thing about it is it's documented in the Red Book of Ossory, and the bishop actually wrote down the mash bill that he used to make this. And I'm not going to go into it. The Chris Hennessy and Off the Cuff, they researched all this and they made it up. And this is the batch, or as close as they could get it to what the bishop documented in the Red Book of Ossory. Now, of course, back then this was more of a medicine. I could see, somebody has sniffles or some aches and pains or whatever, and they'd go up to the bishop, and the bishop would, give them a little bit of this water of life, to cure whatever ailed them or whatever was bothering them, and they'd take their little sip and whatnot. So, like I said, the Irish are the first ones to document what became whiskey today. I'm going to take that a little bit farther, and this is not historical. This is my opinion, so don't take it for anything other than what I'm intending it to be here. The Irish were the first ones to document whiskey, and like I said, this was a medicine. So people would go up there and they'd ask the bishop for, something to ease their pain or whatever they had going on, and he'd give them this little sample and say, there you go. And they'd show up maybe once a day doing their thing. Well, I'm guessing some like a Mick and a Patty, they would go up there and they'd get their little thing. They got to talking. They said, man, that stuff's so good, and that just makes me feel so good, and I wish I could do it more. So they actually started, all right, well, let's go back up there, this afternoon and see if we can get another one. So they went up there and, hey, this is just not working, it's not holding out and everything. So, all right, the bishop gave them another one. Then after a little bit, they're like, I wonder if we could get up there and say we need one to sleep. So they'd go up there before bedtime and they'd say, can we get another one of those to help us sleep? Our problems are we can't get to sleep and we can't do this. And he's like, all right, like I said, the bishop, he's trying to write a book, he's making this elixir, this medicine to pass out to the people for their ills and everything. I'm sure he was thinking, I ain't got time to be passing this out to everybody, especially these two numbskulls. Well, he had some little bottles in the back there, and it came to him, you know what? I'm going to fill up these little bottles here, and when they show up in the morning, I'm just going to give them these little bottles so they don't have to come back the rest of the day. Keep them from nagging at me. Well, for those of you that don't know, there is a little, I think it's a 200 milliliter bottle. It's called a naggin. So the Irish came up with the naggin. And so there you go. There's another part of it. Like I said, they'd get their naggin and they'd, go home and they'd do that. Well, every day they're coming back and getting their naggin filled up again. And the bishop's like, man, we're going to go broke if I don't start charging for this medicine to these guys. They're going through it like crazy. So he decided, you know what, I'm going to start charging them. So there we go. The Irish invented selling whiskey. So he started charging them, and they didn't mind. you know, they kept coming back and, you know, just kept bothering him. And pretty soon he's like, I don't have time for these guys. You know, they're drinking all this elixir, and, you know, yeah, we're making good money off of them, but I just don't have the time to mess with them. So he came up with the idea that, all right, when they come in the morning, I'm just going to tell them, head on over there to the cask and you just fill your own bottle, pay me, and be on your way. So there you go. That's where they came up with the idea that you could fill your own cask at the distilleries. No, that's probably true or even close, but I think it's a pretty neat idea. But anyway, enough about me and my crazy thoughts and dreams there. But this here, like I said, it's based on the first, or it's the first whiskey that was made. And like I said, Chris Hennessy, you know, I looked into the story a little bit. Actually, before I tried this, and you know, back then it was all, you know, Latin and all different kinds of languages, all different kind of measurements, you know, and he went in and deciphered it all. And the story goes that he even went as far as to trying to figure out what ingredients were there and how did they go about getting these ingredients to Ireland, you know, because a lot of these ingredients weren't part of the Irish agriculture or whatever. And, you know, of course there was trade and all that, but, you know, how would they do that, you know? Maybe cinnamon, you know, how would they get cinnamon when cinnamon was brought to them? You know, was it brought into them in sticks? Was it brought into them in oils? Was it brought into them in powders? You know, and from what I read, you know, they kind of tried to figure that out and, you know, try to make this as close to the original recipe that the bishop used and everything. I think it said it took them about 2 years before they finally decided, all right, we think this is it. We're going to go ahead and proceed with this. So they made up some and they bottled it. I think they're on batch 4 or 5 now. I'm not sure about that. And I'm not sure which batch this one is. If I'm not mistaken, I think it might be batch 2 or 3. But anyway, with that story, you know, and the history, because that's, you know, I love the Irish whiskey and I love the history of Ireland and I love the history of Irish whiskey and the bottles. You know, so with that in mind, you know, this was kind of a no-brainer that I needed to try to get my hands on a bottle of this and give it a try and see what my thoughts on it were. So that's what I did. And you can get this on Irish Malts online. And for those of you that's in the U.S., they do ship, I believe, if not all states, they ship to most of the states here in the U.S. If you're in a restricted state, you probably know that, you know better. But go ahead and give them a look. And they got all kinds of other stuff in there too. You know, as far as Irish whiskey goes, great selection of Irish whiskey, great company. Dealt with them for quite a while, so I wouldn't hesitate to go with them. But anyway, on this, it's probably one of the best things I could say I've ever smelled. It's just, it's everything. I said I wasn't ever going to go into giving you your notes or your aromas or anything like that, but I mean, it's floral, it's bacon spices, I mean, it's really everything. And like I said, I don't know exactly what went into this to make it, but you can smell everything in there. So, you know, I'm thinking, you know, it's just the kitchen sink, everything that you have in the cabinet, let's throw it in there and let's, you know, distill it and make a great medicine. You know, this smells like no medicine I've ever had, I can tell you that. Yeah, if Mom would have gave me something like this and when I was a kid and I had the sniffles and everything, I'd probably be like Mick and Patty saying, yeah, I got sniffles, I need more of that, you know. It's just a lovely nose. And everybody that I've brought this out, I don't give this out a lot to drink, but everybody that's been over here, I think, has had a nose off of it, and everybody has said the same thing. It's a beautiful smell. It's fabulous. And to be honest, I haven't even really had much to drink out of it, because, like I said, this is part of what I do over here at the Old Man's Irish Pubs. When I have people over, we talk about the whiskeys that we're drinking and everything, and usually somebody will say, "Hey, tell them about that first whiskey." And so I bring this out, you know, and like I said, I got to have it around or else I can't do that. So it doesn't really have a whiskey flavor to it. I mean, it's, you know, you can tell it's a distilled spirit right there. You know, I'm getting kind of that burn going down in there. I really don't know how to explain it. It's kind of unique and on its own, and it's good. You know, I'm thinking maybe like spiced hot spiced apple cider or something like that, or maybe you could go with a hot toddy or something along those lines. You know, it's spicy and all that kind of stuff with it. It's got some sweetness to it. Like I said, it's very unique taste, and it's not a bad taste. But I think, you know, I probably poured too much tonight. Usually I'll do just a little bitty pour of it when I do taste it, or if I have anybody else taste it. So this one might be a little big, but like I said, it's enjoyable. I mean, it's kind of thick and kind of like maybe a cough syrup type viscosity to it. Um, so I mean, it's definitely worth, if it's something that you know, you would enjoy having the history and the story, just like I've told you here, and maybe make up your own like I did also. And if you do, please put your story down below. I want to read it, and maybe one of these episodes I'll go through and I'll read some of the stories that you guys put on here, and we can all enjoy them. So, but anyway, like I said, I think this is something worth trying if it's something that interests you, and if it's not, you know, hey, that's fine too. Um, anyway, I think that's about enough for tonight. Um, I hope you all enjoyed this little bit of time here. I'm going to try to keep these as short as I can. You guys got way better things to do with your life than sit here and listen to me ramble on. So there again, thank you for joining me at the Old Man's Irish Pub. And remember, like I said last time, or like I keep saying, it's your whiskey. You drink it your way. Sláinte.